The vast darkness of space stretched endlessly, cold and unforgiving. Captain June Park stood motionless at the bridge of the refugee transport, his eyes scanning the emptiness that once held hope. The ship carried survivors from 3 destroyed planetary systems, each person a testimony to the brutal efficiency of the Krell Imperium. 12,000 souls huddled in the massive vessel's compartments, their faces etched with fear and exhaustion. They had watched their worlds burn, their civilizations reduced to scattered memories and burning debris. The Krell's systematic destruction had left no room for mercy, no space for negotiation. SEO Kim, the ship's communications officer, worked tirelessly at her station. Her fingers moved across holographic displays searching for any sign of communication, any hint of rescue, but the silence was deafening. Sector after sector had fallen silent, consumed by the relentless Krell war machine. The refugee transport was designed for survival, not comfort. Tight corridors wound through the ship, filled with people from different species who had nothing in common except their shared trauma. Families huddled together, children pressed close to their parents, their eyes wide with a mixture of terror and uncertainty. Captain Park understood the weight of his responsibility. Every decision he made could mean the difference between survival and total extinction. The ship's limited resources were carefully managed with strict rationing of food, water, and energy. Each jump through space consumed precious fuel, and they could not afford even the slightest miscalculation. In the central observation deck, a group of elder advisors from different species discussed their dwindling options. Their conversations were hushed, filled with a sense of impending doom. They had tried diplomatic channels, military strategies, and desperate pleas for intervention. Nothing had worked against the Krell's overwhelming technological superiority. A young Trilarian engineer named Kara approached Captain Park. Her blue-tinged skin reflected the soft light of the bridge, her movements careful and deliberate. "Captain," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "our navigation systems are showing increasing instability. We might not be able to make another long-distance jump." Park nodded, understanding the implications. Every jump was a risk, but staying in one place was an even greater danger. The Krell had proven they could track and destroy refugee vessels with terrifying precision. The ship's artificial gravity generators hummed softly, a constant reminder of the delicate balance between survival and total destruction. Children who had never known peace played quietly in designated safe zones, their laughter a stark contrast to the tension that permeated every deck and corridor. Medical teams worked around the clock, treating injuries and managing the psychological trauma of the survivors. Post-traumatic stress was common, with many individuals showing signs of complete emotional shutdown. The medical bay was always full, a testament to the brutality they had witnessed. In the cargo hold, modified defense systems stood ready. Makeshift weapons, salvage technology, and desperate innovations were the only things standing between these survivors and total annihilation. Each passenger understood that their survival depended on unity and resourcefulness. Captain Park reviewed the latest sensor data. The ship's long-range scanners showed nothing but empty space and distant star clusters. No rescue signals, no friendly fleets, no hope of immediate assistance. They were alone, drifting through a universe that seemed determined to erase their existence. As the ship continued its uncertain journey, a sense of collective resignation settled over the passengers. They had lost everything. Their homes, their planets, their futures. All that remained was the slim hope of finding a new place to survive, a chance to rebuild what the Krell had so efficiently destroyed. The communication systems crackled with static, a haunting reminder of the communication networks that had once connected entire civilizations. Now those networks were nothing more than scattered memories, destroyed by the ruthless efficiency of the Krell Imperium. Captain June Park looked out into the endless darkness, knowing that their survival depended on more than just technology or strategy. It would take something deeper, something more profound, a spark of hope that could not be extinguished by any enemy, no matter how powerful. Lieutenant HFY sat in the dimly lit monitoring station, her eyes fixed on the countless screens displaying streams of cosmic data. The Deep Space Communications Center hummed with the quiet intensity of advanced technology, rows of sophisticated equipment tracking the endless whispers of the universe. Most days were monotonous, endless signals, random electromagnetic noise, and occasional routine transmissions. But today felt different. Her fingers hovered over the control panel, sensing something unusual in the background radiation patterns. A faint signal flickered across the quantum spectrum. It was weak, almost imperceptible, but something about its frequency caught her attention. Most technicians would have dismissed it as random interference, but Choi had an intuitive understanding of communication anomalies. She adjusted the signal filters, enhancing the fragmented transmission. Bits of information emerged: distress codes, spatial coordinates, and fragments of what seemed like a complex communication protocol from an unknown source. The signal bore marks of extreme technological stress, as if transmitted under immense pressure. Director Min Park entered the monitoring room, his experienced eyes scanning the unusual data stream. "What have you found, Lieutenant?" he asked, his voice calm but sharp. Choi explained her discovery, highlighting the transmission's unique characteristics. The signal contained encrypted layers that suggested an advanced civilization's communication system, but one that was clearly under extreme duress. The Communications Center's senior analysts began analyzing the transmission. Complex algorithms worked simultaneously, breaking down each fragment, attempting to reconstruct its original meaning. Hours passed, with each layer revealing more mysterious details about a conflict far beyond Earth's current understanding. Initial assessments suggested the signal originated from a region of space humans had never directly explored. The technological signature was unlike anything in Earth's astronomical databases. It hinted at a massive conflict, with traces of multiple species' communication technologies intertwined. Earth's scientific community was immediately notified. Research teams from various institutes began converging, bringing together experts in quantum communications, interstellar linguistics, and advanced signal processing. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a renowned xenolinguistics expert, noted the signal's unique modulation. "This isn't just a random transmission," she explained during an emergency briefing. "This is a structured communication, possibly a distress call from a complex multi-species civilization." Military intelligence became interested. If this signal represented a potential threat or an opportunity for first contact, Earth needed to be prepared. Strategic defense protocols were activated, and specialized teams began developing potential response strategies. The signal's origin pointed to a region approximately 427 light-years from Earth, a vast, mostly unexplored sector of the Orion arm. Preliminary star charts showed multiple planetary systems, suggesting the possibility of an advanced interstellar civilization facing an unprecedented crisis. Lieutenant Choi continued monitoring, her professional calm masking an underlying excitement. This could be humanity's first genuine evidence of large-scale extraterrestrial communication. The implications were staggering, a potential first step into a larger, more complex galactic community. Director Park understood the delicate nature of the discovery. One wrong move could either reveal humanity's technological capabilities or expose potential vulnerabilities. The communication needed to be approached with calculated precision. As research continued, the signal began revealing more complex layers: fragments of spatial battle reports, technological failure indicators, and what seemed like desperate coordination attempts between multiple species emerged. The picture forming was one of a civilization under extreme threat, fighting for its very survival. The transmission suggested a massive conflict involving technological warfare beyond human comprehension. Entire communication networks appeared to be collapsing, with coordinated attempts to maintain some form of collective resistance. Earth's most advanced quantum computers were now fully engaged, working to decode and understand the intricate communication patterns. Each breakthrough brought new questions, new mysteries about the potential conflict happening in the distant reaches of space. Lieutenant Choi knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. This was more than just a random signal. This was A message, a cry for help from a civilization facing total annihilation, reaching out across the vast, cold emptiness of space, hoping someone, somewhere, might hear them. The United Earth Strategic Defense Council assembled in a secure underground facility, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Harsh fluorescent lights illuminated a room filled with the world's most brilliant minds, scientists, military strategists, and technological experts from every corner of the globe. Dr. Yuna Kim stood at the center of the conference room, her holographic presentation displaying complex diagrams of potential technological adaptations. She was not a typical military researcher, but a quantum systems engineer whose innovative thinking had caught the attention of global defense leaders. Our current technological infrastructure can be rapidly modified, she explained, her voice steady and confident. We can create a distributed combat intelligence network that adapts faster than any known military system. The room listened intently. The mysterious signal they had intercepted represented more than just a communication anomaly. It was a potential call to action. Humanity had always been adaptable, but this challenge would test the limits of their technological innovation. Military. Commanders reviewed preliminary data about the unknown conflict. The transmission suggested a war of unprecedented scale, involving multiple species and technologies far more advanced than Earth's current capabilities. But where others saw insurmountable odds, the human team saw opportunity. Engineers began, working around the clock. Quantum computing labs transformed into strategic development centers. Existing military hardware was dismantled and reimagined. Naval vessels, aerospace platforms, and communication systems were rebuilt with modular designs that could adapt in real time. Artificial intelligence systems were trained on the fragmented signal data. Machine learning algorithms worked to understand the communication patterns, technological signatures, and potential combat strategies of the unknown civilization under attack. Global resources were redirected. Economic barriers dissolved as nations recognized the potential existential threat. Universities, research centers, and private technology companies formed unprecedented collaborations. The entire planet seemed to pulse with a collective sense of purpose. Dr. Kim's team developed breakthrough neural network algorithms that could predict and counter complex technological threats. They created adaptive combat systems that could reconfigure themselves milliseconds after detecting an enemy's strategy. Military training programs were completely overhauled. Soldiers were now trained not just in traditional combat, but in rapid, technological adaptation. Simulation centers ran continuous scenarios based on the fragmented signal data, preparing human forces for potential interstellar conflict. Spacecraft design teams worked on revolutionary propulsion systems. Traditional rocket technology was abandoned in favor of quantum entanglement drive prototypes. These new designs could potentially perform faster than light jumps with unprecedented precision. Communication specialists worked to decode more of the mysterious transmission. Each fragment revealed more about the potential conflict, hints of a massive technological war that threatened multiple civilizations. The global effort was unlike anything in human history. It wasn't about national pride or territorial expansion. This was about survival. Not just for humanity, but potentially for other species facing total destruction. Specialized task forces were created, combining experts from different disciplines. Physicists worked alongside computer engineers. Linguists collaborated with military strategists. The boundaries between scientific disciplines dissolved in the face of this potential global challenge. Satellite networks were upgraded, transforming into a global early warning system. Every piece of orbital technology was modified to gather potential interstellar communication signals. Massive radio telescopes were recalibrated to detect even the faintest traces of extraterrestrial communication. Psychological preparedness became as important as technological readiness. Public communication campaigns helped prepare global populations for the potential reality of first contact, or first conflict, with an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. Dr. Kim looked around the room, sensing the collective determination. Humanity had always been at its best when facing seemingly impossible challenges. The mysterious signal represented more than a potential threat. It was an invitation, a chance to prove that human innovation, collaboration, and adaptability could overcome any obstacle. As the first prototype adaptive combat systems came online, a new chapter in human history began. They were no longer just observers of the universe. They were preparing to become active participants, ready to defend not just themselves, but potentially entire civilizations facing extinction. The awakening had begun. The first human fleet emerged from hyperspace like a phantom armada, breaking the absolute silence of the conflict zone. Commander J. Shin stood on the bridge of the flagship, his eyes calculating and calm, hands steady on the quantum navigation interface. Massive starships materialized, unlike anything the Krell had ever encountered. These vessels were living machines, capable of instantaneous reconfiguration, their hulls embedded with adaptive quantum processors that could predict and counter enemy movements faster than biological reflexes. Initial Krell sensor systems detected the human fleet, but by the time their targeting systems activated, the human ships had already anticipated and neutralized multiple weapon platforms. Each human vessel moved with a synchronized intelligence that seemed almost supernatural. Commander Shin's primary strategy was simple: total communication disruption. The human fleet didn't just attack physical targets, they systematically dismantled the Krell's complex communication networks. Quantum entanglement weapons created instantaneous feedback loops that crashed entire battle management systems. Specialized drone swarms deployed from human ships, each small unit carrying advanced electronic warfare capabilities. These drones moved in perfect mathematical formations, overwhelming Krell defensive systems with millions of simultaneous attack vectors. The Krell battleships, once considered invincible, suddenly appeared clumsy and predictable. Human ships moved like liquid mercury, changing configuration mid-battle, redirecting energy systems, and neutralizing weapon concentrations before the enemy could comprehend the attack. Artificial intelligence systems guided each human vessel, processing millions of tactical scenarios per second. Where biological commanders would hesitate, these AI systems made instantaneous decisions, exploiting the smallest vulnerabilities in the Krell's defensive formations. Tactical displays showed the battle unfolding like a complex dance. Human ships didn't just destroy Krell vessels, they systematically dismantled their strategic capabilities. Communication networks collapsed, weapon systems became inoperable, and entire battle groups were rendered ineffective within minutes. Commander Shin observed the battle with professional detachment. Years of preparation, countless simulations, and the collective innovation of human researchers had prepared them for this moment. They weren't just fighting a war, they were demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to conflict. Refugee. Vessels from multiple species watched in stunned silence. Ships that had been running for months expecting imminent destruction now witnessed a technological intervention beyond their comprehension. The human fleet moved with a precision and adaptability that seemed almost magical. Quantum communication networks allowed perfect synchronization between human vessels. Each ship knew the exact position, status, and tactical intention of every other vessel. They moved as a single intelligent organism, anticipating and neutralizing threats before they could fully materialize. The Krell commanders couldn't comprehend the attack. Their entire military doctrine was based on overwhelming force and predictable engagement patterns, but the humans had introduced a completely new paradigm of warfare, one based on intelligence, adaptability, and technological innovation. Specialized energy weapons created localized quantum disruption fields. Entire Krell battle groups found their systems simultaneously failing, their weapons becoming useless chunks of metal. The human fleet didn't just defeat the enemy, they systematically removed their capacity to wage war. Rescue teams were already preparing to support refugee vessels. The human approach wasn't just about military victory, but about minimizing civilian casualties and providing immediate support to displaced populations. As the battle entered its final stages, it became clear this was more than a military engagement. This was a demonstration of a fundamentally different approach to conflict, one based on intelligence, adaptability, and a commitment to protecting sentient life. Commander Jay Shin watched the final Krell defensive positions collapse. What had begun as a mysterious signal had transformed into humanity's first major interstellar intervention. They had not just defeated an enemy, they had potentially changed the entire dynamics of galactic conflict. The battle lasted less than 3 standard galactic hours. When it ended, the universe looked fundamentally different. Humanity had announced its arrival on the galactic stage, not as conquerors but as unexpected guardians. The Galactic Conference Hall fell silent as Director Min Park stepped forward. Representatives from countless species sat watching, their previous assumptions about humanity completely shattered by the recent intervention against the Krell. Survivors from dozens of planetary systems filled the surrounding chambers. They whispered among themselves, sharing stories of how human forces had not just defeated the Krell, but had done so with an unprecedented level of strategic compassion. Rescue operations had been immediate and comprehensive. Human medical teams worked tirelessly, treating wounded from species they had never encountered before. Advanced medical technologies were shared freely, without demands or expectations of future compensation. The Trilarian ambassador, whose entire civilization had been on the brink of extinction, spoke first. "You did not come to conquer," he said, his translative device carrying a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. "You came to protect." Evidence presented showed how the human fleet had systematically dismantled the Krell's military infrastructure while minimizing civilian casualties. They had not just won a war. They had prevented further destruction with surgical precision. Technological teams from various species studied the human intervention methods. Their adaptive combat systems, quantum communication networks, and AI-driven strategic planning represented a quantum leap in military and defensive technologies. Young diplomats from Earth explained their approach. It wasn't about territorial expansion or resource acquisition. Their intervention was driven by a fundamental belief in protecting sentient life, regardless of species or planetary origin. Refugee populations began sharing their experiences. Human rescue teams had not just saved lives. They had provided immediate support, medical care, and hope to civilizations that had lost everything. Temporary settlement zones were already being established, with humans working alongside local populations. Scientific exchanges began almost immediately. The human approach to problem-solving, collaborative, adaptive, and fundamentally optimistic, impressed diplomatic representatives. They didn't see challenges as obstacles but as opportunities for innovation. The economic implications were profound. Human technologies could revolutionize multiple sectors, from medical care to communication systems. But unlike previous galactic interactions, humans offered these technologies as collaborative tools, not weapons of economic dominance. Commander Jay Shin explained their strategic thinking during a detailed briefing. "We're not here to replace existing systems," he said. "We're here to support collective survival and technological advancement." Psychological analysis teams noted something unique about the human approach. Where previous galactic conflicts had been driven by resource competition or territorial expansion, humans seemed motivated by a more complex set of values: protection, collaboration, and mutual growth. The Xylarian Science Council was particularly impressed by human adaptability. Their ability to quickly understand and integrate technologies from multiple species suggested a level of cognitive flexibility previously unseen in galactic interactions. Diplomatic protocols were quickly being rewritten. Humans had entered the galactic stage not as newcomers but as unexpected guardians. Their first major intervention had redefined expectations about emerging spacefaring civilizations. Refugee children who had witnessed the human intervention told stories of rescue ships appearing like technological angels, medical teams that spoke multiple languages, rescue operations that prioritized life over strategic advantage. These were not just military actions but humanitarian miracles. The conference gradually transformed from a formal diplomatic meeting to a collaborative planning session. Species that had been enemies for generations found themselves discussing collective defense strategies, inspired by the human approach of finding common ground. Director Min Park's final statement captured the moment's significance. "We didn't come to prove our superiority," he said. "We came because someone needed help, and helping others is what defines us." As the conference concluded, something had fundamentally changed in the galactic community. Humanity had not just demonstrated military capability, but had shown a profound commitment to collective survival and mutual understanding. The universe looked different now, and at the center of this transformation was a simple, powerful idea: that true strength comes not from conquest but from protection.